Here there is an increase in demand. So this was demand before, this is demand after. And here we have a shift. And we can notice here, if the price was 35, we used to get 5. Now we can buy 11 units. So demand shift if taste, income, other goods, expectations change. Okay? Now, there's another topic called movement. Okay, let's see what's movement. Movement, it happens along a demand curve, and it's a response to price changes for that good. And shift, it's of demand curve occur only when the determinants of demand change. Let's see. Do you guys understand the difference between a movement and a shift? Now here, if we look at this curve, this is the take back. This is we take it back, and we take this back. Okay. Now here, what happens if prices move from 5 to 8? This will be movement from here to here. Yes. Do you see? So we move from one point on the same demand curve to another point on the same demand curve. When did that happen? When price increased. Right? Now
the quantity is constant.
The quantity will change. It used to be 5, now it will be something like 2 or 3.
Less,
because price increased.
How come the price? There is no change.
There's no change.
The demand is constant. Demand is changed.
Price increased for whatever reason. Okay. Let's say before we see even the supply curve. Do you see? So if the prices are 5, I will buy 5. Now if the prices move to 8, how many will I buy?
2.
Maybe 2. Do you see? So here, this is one point, and I move to another point. This is a movement on the same line. So when do we have movement? When price change. When do we have shift? If one of the determinants change. Are you guys okay with this? All right, great. Now we talk about changes in quantity, movement along a given demand curve, while shift, it happens due to changes in taste and income and other goods. Now market demand. Now when we say market demand, remember the example that we said, I go to the market and I demand. Now it is the total demand of goods and services people are willing and able to buy at alternative prices in a given time period. So this is like the definition. It's the demand of all of us. So if I talk about the demand for mangoes, it's not the demand for me only. Like everyone in the economy who go and wants to buy mangoes. And the sum of individual demands. So my individual and your individual plus your individual, we sum all of that and we get the total demand. So if I ask you how much is the total demand for mango, you will see all the people in Yemen, how much they are willing to buy the mango from Yemen, and that will be the total mango demand in Yemen economy. Market demand is determined by the number of potential buyers and their respective tastes, income, other goods. Now, market demand curve, that's when you add them all together. And the use of demand curve, it shows how much consumers will spend on different prices, and it predicts the amount to produce at a given price. So it gives you an indication, if the price is 8, it gives you an indication that only 2 people will buy. And determines the price that will result in a desired output level. Now here we move to the other side, which is market supply. Now market supply is the other side. Now supply interacts with the demand to determine the price that will be charged and the total quantities of a good or service that sellers are willing and able to sell. So here the key point is sell. And at alternative prices in a given time period, ceteris paribus. Are you guys okay with this?
No.
Where are you lost?
The last point.
The last point, ceteris paribus, means everything is the same.
Yeah.
The second point, you mean? The second point says the total quantities of good or service that sellers are willing and able to sell at alternative prices in a given time period.
So this is a definition for the market supply.
This is the supply. Are you guys okay with this? If you're not sure, raise your hand. Go ahead.
Why we set alternative prices?
Because it show you at each price how much people are willing to supply. Do you see? For example, if you look at that example here on the board, if the price is $1, maybe the quantity supplied is 1. If the price is 5, we can do 5. If the price is 10, we can do 10. So it show you alternative prices. Everyone is okay with this? And remember the example for supply we had? The babysitting. Okay, if the price is babysitting my baby for 1 hour is $1, how many people are willing to babysit? 1. If it's $5, 5. If it's $10, 10. And so on. And the sum of individual suppliers. Okay. Now, market supply is an expression of the seller's intention. So here we're talking about seller intention, and it's the ability and willingness to sell, not a statement of an actual sales. And determinants of supply. What do you guys guess as determinants of supply?
Should be the same, right?
The price of factors.
The price of factors. Remember when we talk about babysitting, what will make people babysit more?
The list price.
Do you see? See, here we're talking about determinants. If you say price, you're talking about movement. You see, every time you talk about a price, you're talking about movement along the line. So, if the price is 5 people will babysit. If the price is 1 person will babysit. So, if I increase price from 1 to 5, it will be on the same supply curve. But now we want the whole supply curve to shift. I want for $1, not just 1 person to babysit 1 hour. I want maybe more. This way I can shift from here. This is the supply curve. I want it to shift to be here. I want for $1, not 1 babysitter 1 hour. No, I want it to babysit 10 hours. What can make that happen? What did you think? I can, babysit instead of 1 hour for $1, I want 10 hours for $1.
Quality.
If the currency rate.
Let's see. Number 1 is technology. We get this robot babysitter, pay $1, I'll babysit for 10 hours. Do you see? So technology can make high production, right? So instead of we get farmers, you see, and now we got this new technology, we can farm very good. Have you seen those greenhouses? Greenhouse, it's technology. Greenhouse, cucumber, they come in quantities. You see? Another one is the resources cost. Okay? People become cheap. Remember the factor market? Now people, you don't have jobs. Remember? So, remember the people who will not watch a movie for $2? Those people, the more of them then. Other goods, you look at other goods, you don't have any jobs, there is no other, so maybe, okay, let's say, for example, you go tomatoes, there's no more tomatoes, and there is no more fruits. The only thing you have is the mango. So now we need to produce maybe more. And then taxes, subsidies. If the government do a subsidy, for example, CAC Bank, they subsidize mango, that makes it cheaper. They subsidize coffee production, it becomes cheaper. And also expectations. So we think in the future we will not be able to sell as much. And the number of sellers. So those are the determinants of supply. Question on the exam, true or false? The number of sellers is a determinant of demand. False. That's good. Taxes and subsidies is an example of a determinant of supply. That's good. Now, what's the law of supply? The quantity of a good supplied in a given time period increases as its price increases. Ceteris paribus. And there is a direct or a positive relationship between supply, quantity supplied, and price. Ceteris paribus. You guys are okay with this? And this is how the curve looks like, supply curve. And what will make the shift? Any change in a quantity supplied. We've got this movement along a given supply curve. And change in supply, it's a shift. It's a shift in supply curve due to changes in one of the determinants. So every time there's a change in determinants, shift. Okay? No change in determinants?
Move.
No shift. Either a movement or nothing. Okay? And let's see. We've got this equilibrium. What is equilibrium point? Is when they both meet. Right? So only one price and quantity that are compatible with all existing intentions of both buyers and sellers. A price at which quantity of the good demanded in a given time period equals the quantity supplied. So we want 5 and they have produced 5, so we're happy. So that's equilibrium point. An equilibrium price, it is the point where at this price people will be happy. And we've got this example. That's the demand curve, supply curve, they meet. What's the equilibrium price?
20.
20. And what's the quantity demanded? Quantity supplied? 39. Same 39 quantity supplied, same 39 quantity demanded. They're both equal. We're in equilibrium. Everyone is happy. The going price is 20. And do you see the shortage in supply on the curve? You understand the shortage where it comes from? If we say maximum price is 15, then we have a shortage. If we say the minimum price is 25, then we have a surplus. Question on the exam. If the maximum price is 25, what's going to happen?
It depends.
Nothing will happen. We will reach equilibrium. Right? Because we said the maximum price is 25. But if we said the minimum price is 25, it means we can't reach the equilibrium 20. Do you see the 20? Let's see. Do you see this point 20? Yes. This is where we want to be. So if I tell you the minimum is 25, it means you can't reach below, then it will be a surplus. If I tell you the maximum is 15 and you can't reach above, then will be a shortage. But if I tell you the maximum is 25, it's okay. We're under the 25, so we can reach our equilibrium. It will be 20. Are you guys okay with this? Anyone lost? Anyone is still paying attention? It's amazing. Very few people are still paying attention. Let's see. I'll do it one more time. Remember when we talked about the supply and demand? What do you want to make this product that you look at the graph? $20. What's the commodity here? Let's move from potatoes and mangoes. Do something else. What is something for $20? Commodity for $20. Gas, petrol. Let's say gas. $20 per, I don't know, dipper. Now let's say the government says, hey, by law, okay, the price of petrol cannot be more than 25, and the equilibrium is 20. What's going to happen? Nothing will happen, because they said cannot be more than 25. It's not more than 25. Nothing will happen. But if the government come in and says maximum is $15, immediately there's a shortage, because the equilibrium is 20. Do you see? Now here, market clearing, it's a collective action of sellers and buyers to create equilibrium. There's always, every time you go to the market and you bargain, you say, hey, look, there's no one there selling. So you have to pay more. That's a bargaining to reach an equilibrium. If you go to the market and it is full of tomatoes, and the first one says 5, and the second one says, come over here, I will give you 5 and more, and the third one says, I will give it to you for 4.5, then that's a sign that there is a lot of supply, so maybe we need to push the equilibrium to 4. Do you see? So that's what we mean by market clearing. Equilibrium price and quantity should reflect a compromise between buyers and sellers. And no other compromise yield a quantity demanded that is exactly equal to the quantity supplied. So here we talk about the invisible hand, and you guys know the invisible hand is the price, and that's Adam Smith. And it means that the equilibrium price is determined by the collective behavior of both buyers and sellers. So equilibrium price doesn't happen like this. No, it needs buyers and sellers, and they negotiate to reach the equilibrium. And then we talked about shortage and surplus. Shortage is when the amount by which the quantity demanded exceed the quantity supplied, and it occurs when the selling price is lower than the equilibrium price, and sellers supply less than buyers demand at that price. And this is the example and how it looks like. We're trying to push to the equilibrium price, but the government says, no, you can't reach 20, only 15. Then we have a shortage. Surplus is the other way around. You guys are okay with this? And let's see, the surplus and shortage businesses often discover the equilibrium price through trial and error. There's always this idea of try, okay, and see. If people will jump at you, then you know, no, I shouldn't lower the price. If you increase the price and people immediately leave you, then you know you don't want to increase price. So these are like trials, like companies, they do this. They say lower the price or do a promotion just to see how people will respond. You see? And changes in equilibrium price and quantity, they change whenever the price, whenever the supply or demand curve shift. So every time there's a shift, there's a new equilibrium. And this happens when determinants of supply and demand change. And we've got the concept of disequilibrium. That's price ceiling. Now, what's the price ceiling?
The maximum price.
It's an upper limit, maximum price imposed on prices or goods. And what's an example of a price ceiling? Giuliani in New York, apartments, maximum $300. That's a price ceiling. That's a maximum. Or government of Yemen, maximum for gas, $15. What happens with the price ceiling? Can cause a shortage. Now, price floor, it means a minimum. An example is minimum wage and lower limit minimum price imposed on prices of a good or a service. Price ceiling, it has three predictors: increased quantity demanded, decreased quantity supplied, shortage. Rent controls on housing. That's the example. Okay? And there will be less housing for everyone when rent controls are imposed to make housing more affordable for some. And this is what happens when you put a maximum price for housing rent, and housing shortage will be between QD minus QS. Do you know what's a QD? This is QD. Oops. And this is QS. Did you see QD and QS? So the difference between them is the shortage. This is equilibrium price. This is PE equilibrium. This is QE equilibrium quantity. Are you guys okay with this?
Yes.
You know, if you are 100% lost, raise your hand. If you understand this, raise your hand. That's great. Now, if you are in the middle, you are in those people who are not sure. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What are your questions? Who would like to ask a question? Go ahead.
What is the difference between the QS and the QD?
Now, QS is quantity demanded. So people demand this price, this amount.
Okay.
Now, QS is quantity supplied. People are supplying only this. Why? Because this is the price. This is the price of the ceiling. Price per housing. Remember the $300 that Giuliani put? He put $300. Now, instead of in New York, instead of there is a 1 million apartment, these are the willing at 300. Okay, only 1 million. But the number of people who want are not 1 million. There are like 5 million, which is QD. 5 million people want these apartments. But there's a big shortage. which is the 5 million minus the 1 million.
So can we,
And here we've got this equilibrium, which is the price that it should be, but it's not.
so what we can call this case, I mean, because we are
Shortage.
far behind the
Shortage. We have a shortage. Why shortage? Because there's a price ceiling. What's the price ceiling? Government says this is the maximum price we can put for apartments. Any other questions? Any other questions on the price ceiling? Did you get it now? Did you get it, lady on the back? Any questions? All right, great. Now here you start to see economics in QS minus QD, will equal the shortage after price ceiling. See, you start to sound like an economist. Start to understand economics because they have a lot of these. PC. What's the difference between PC and PE? PC is price after ceiling price, while PE is a price of an equilibrium. Okay. So we just want to make sure that when you start to get your MBA economics class, you see PC, PE minus, and you see, it doesn't scare you at all. Are you okay on the back? Okay.
But what's the effect of the pricing for the suppliers and the consumers?
Now they put price ceiling. Now suppliers, they can only supply QS. Now demanders, they don't want QS only. They want QD because that's what will make them happy because it's a cheap price. So there's a lot of people, they want these apartments for $300. That's a cheap price in New York. In New York, equilibrium is $1,000. But with this new law, people are jumping. But they couldn't. So they have to sleep in New Jersey.
So it's affect the growth of the country or the...
It's not good for the economy. People, those people, this. Do you see this area here? Now, this is when economics become like very busy. Now, see this area here? This square, okay, really is how much income landlords make. Okay.
The pointer is not.
The pointer is not very clear.
No.
Okay. You see, but people want to get all of that area. Let's see if I can change the color here. People want also this area. Now this area here, that's how much people are willing to pay money, but they can't, because the government says it's a maximum. So if we let the market by itself, let it, laissez-faire, then what will happen is that this is going how much money will be spent in the economy. It will start from here to here to here to here, and this entire let's see, does this work? Okay. Now this entire square will be how much money is spent in real estate. So you see the green area, that's laissez-faire, let it go. Government control, the actual money is that first yellow area, and the lost in the economy is that area in orange. Are you guys okay with this? The orange is lost. It's a lost real estate business that people want to rent, but they can't.
Is it always that policy to put pricing?
Well, sometimes, remember the economics, who gets the benefit then? So sometimes you want to put price ceiling to do control. Or sometimes it's you put a price ceiling because you actually can't supply it. You see, like for example here in Yemen, there is no gas, there's no oil. The total amount of oil coming into Yemen is very small, only QS. That's how much is available. So what do we do? In order to keep people happy, we say the price maximum is this. And then we reach some sort of a, let's say, short run equilibrium. Because this is how much is available.
Does it have the same effect as the predetermined price of products?
No. Because remember, these are rules, but the demand is the same demand, and the supply is the same supply. but the government regulations. Because let's say what happens if the government, for example, in oil prices, okay? Remember oil prices, the problem when it started? The total amount of oil coming to Yemen was only QS, okay? Now, if the government says the price is PC, some people will be happy and the economy will be a little bit stable. But when people realized that this is the maximum available and there was this big shortage, what happened to price? Price jumped from PC, do you see this point? It jumped all the way until it reached this point. Because this is the real demand for QS quantity. And this was the new short-term price of oil, which was $100 or, well, some people were willing to pay $100, but it stayed for maybe 10,000 for a while. All right, let's move on. Now, price floor is exactly the same story, but the other side, right? This is the supply. This is how much is equilibrium. This is how much is going to be supplied. Demanded. And this is how much is going to be supplied, QS. And this is going to be the price of floor. And government, they impose, they do, these are maybe reasons. Government do the price floor maybe to create the wrong mix of output, maybe. Increase tax, alter distribution of income. Sometimes government fail. And of course the book, like economists today, they come from a neoliberal ideology, which says, don't control the market. You see? And this book is driving in this direction. You see? So the more you read in the book, it will tell you laissez-faire, the doctrine of leave it alone, non-intervention by government will make everything work. Adam Smith was great. You see? And what is the mechanism? We use prices. What, who, for whom are the main questions. And the last slide today talks about the idea of optimal. Not perfect, but optimal. Market outcomes are optimal, not perfect. Optimal outcomes are the best possible given the level and distribution of income and scarce resources. And we expect the choices made in marketplace to be the best possible choices for each of the participants. You see? Any questions on today's chapter? Alright, so now we finished chapter 3. Tomorrow we'll start on chapter 4. Now, some of you will go home, study chapter 3. That's good to prepare for tomorrow. Some of you will go home and not do anything. It's okay, but try to for the grade and we'll see you tomorrow.